around you. Most people are not defeated by the world, they are defeated by themselves. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunities, because they refuse to kill the old version of who they are. The truth is your biggest enemy is not out there. It's the person you were yesterday. And unless you have the courage to bury that version, you will never step into the future that belongs to you. Facing brutal honesty is the first and hardest step in killing the old version of yourself because it demands a mirror that does not lie. Most people live behind illusions, comforting themselves with half-truths like, "I'm doing fine," or "I'll change when the time is right." But reinvention begins when you strip away those excuses and confront the raw, uncomfortable reality of where you are versus where you want to be. Honesty is painful because it exposes weaknesses, reveals wasted time, and forces you to admit that your current habits, mindset, or choices are holding you back. Yet without this confrontation, nothing changes. You cannot build a skyscraper on shaky ground. In the same way, you cannot build a new life on self-deception. Brutal honesty is the demolition process before construction. If this video helped you, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you never miss the next one. Let's come back to the point. Friends, this step requires asking yourself tough questions and refusing to sugarcoat the answers. Am I truly disciplined, or do I rely on bursts of motivation? Do I take responsibility, or do I always blame others? Have I given my best, or have I settled for mediocrity? These questions sting, but they open the door to growth. The old you hides behind pride. The new you emerges when you admit your flaws without fear or denial. Brutal honesty also means acknowledging the gap between your dreams and your current effort. Everyone wants success, but not everyone admits they are not working hard enough for it. You face this truth, you stop lying to yourself and start doing what is necessary. This step is not about self-criticism for the sake of feeling guilty. It is about creating a foundation of clarity. Only when you see the real picture can you decide what must die within you. Whether it's procrastination, laziness, fear, a victim mentality. Brutal honesty hurts in the beginning, but it saves you years of regret later. It is the alarm clock that wakes you up from the comfort of denial. The old you cannot survive the force of truth, and once you face it fully, you give yourself permission to finally begin the reinvention journey. Breaking comfort zones is the most decisive act in reinventing yourself because the old version of you thrives on safety, routine, and predictability. Comfort feels good. It quietly chains you to mediocrity. The human brain is designed to protect you from risk and discomfort, which is why it constantly whispers reasons to stay where you are. Take that chance. Don't speak up. Don't try something new. The problem is that comfort zones rarely produce growth. They keep you repeating the same habits, surrounded by the same environment, thinking the same thoughts, and eventually living the same life year after year. Reinvention demands disruption, and disruption always feels uncomfortable. When you step outside the circle of comfort, you expose yourself to uncertainty, challenge, and even fear. That fear is not your enemy. It is a signal that you are touching the edge of transformation. The old you avoids discomfort because it equates it with danger. The new you must embrace discomfort because it is proof that progress is happening. Imagine a muscle growing in the gym. It only strengthens by being stretched, pushed, torn a little. In the same way, your character, discipline, and courage only grow when you are stretched beyond what feels easy. Comfort zones may keep you safe, they also keep you small. Breaking them doesn't always mean huge, dramatic changes. It starts with small daily decisions, waking up earlier than your body wants, saying yes to opportunities that scare you, learning skills that feel too advanced, speaking in front of people when your voice shakes, or choosing action instead of procrastination. Small step outside comfort rewires your mind to accept challenge as normal. Over time, you expand what feels natural, and what once terrified you becomes routine. That is how reinvention works, not in giant leaps, but in repeated acts of courage that push boundaries further each day. The old you cannot survive outside comfort. The new you is born precisely in that unfamiliar, uncomfortable, and often frightening space where growth is unavoidable. Defining a clear vision is the compass of self-reinvention, because without direction, even the greatest effort leads nowhere. The old version of you lives day by day, reacting to circumstances, drifting wherever life pushes, often mistaking business for progress. Reinvention requires intention, and intention begins with vision. Vision is not just about dreaming. It is about deciding exactly who you want to become and what life you want to build. Without it, you may kill some habits and start new ones, but you will still feel lost because you are moving without a destination. A vision gives meaning to the sacrifices, to the pain of leaving comfort, and to the discipline of new routines. It tells you why the old you must die and why the new you is worth fighting for. A clear vision forces you to paint a picture of your future in vivid detail. I want success, but I want to build a business that gives me freedom. Not I want happiness, but I want to live a life where I wake up excited, work with purpose, and sleep with peace. When you define it with clarity, you begin to filter your decisions. Every choice becomes simply, does this action bring me closer to my vision? Does it feed the old me? That clarity kills confusion because you stop trying to do everything and start focusing only on what aligns with your future. Also pulls you through difficult seasons. The old you gives up when progress is slow or obstacles appear. The new you keeps going because the vision is stronger than the pain. Think of vision as a lighthouse. No matter how stormy the waters get, you still know where the shore is. The journey may take longer than you planned. At least you are moving in the right direction. Reinvention without vision is like burning down a house without knowing what to build on the land. Reinvention with vision is demolishing the old structure with a blueprint already in your hand. The more precise your vision, the more unstoppable your reinvention becomes. Killing excuses is one of the most crucial steps in destroying the old version of yourself because excuses are the armor of mediocrity. The old you survives by protecting itself with reasons for inaction, convincing you that the timing isn't right, the resources aren't enough, the circumstances are too difficult. Excuses sound intelligent, they feel justified, but in truth they are only lies wrapped in logic. Every excuse keeps you chained to the old life you claim to want to escape from. Reinvention begins the moment you silence those excuses and take full responsibility for your actions, your results, and your future. Excuses come in many forms, blaming others for your situation, pointing to lack of time or money, or waiting for motivation to strike. They disguise themselves as obstacles, but in reality they are permission to stay stagnant. The person who says, I can't because I don't have the money, has already surrendered. The person who says, I'll start when I feel ready, has already delayed indefinitely. The new you must recognize that no perfect moment will ever arrive, no one will come to rescue you, and no external condition will hand you transformation. The absence of excuses is the presence of power. Killing excuses doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy. It means you stop hiding behind stories and start searching for solutions. If there's no time, you create time by cutting distractions. If there's no money, you start small with what you have. If there's no support, you learn to walk alone until others notice your progress. The old you sees problems and stops, the new you sees problems and adapts. Reinvention is never about waiting for the ideal path, but about building the path while walking it. Excuses will always whisper, trying to keep you in the comfort zone. Every time you choose action instead of justification, the old you loses its power. The new you is born every time you say, I will, no matter what, and follow it with action, explanation. Detaching from toxic circles is a non-negotiable step in the journey of reinvention because the people around you directly shape your mindset, habits, and choices. Version of you often clings to relationships that feel familiar even when they quietly poison your growth. Toxic circles are not always obvious. Sometimes they appear as friends who laugh at your ambitions, family members who constantly remind you of your past failures, or colleagues who prefer gossip over progress. Staying connected to such energy is like trying to swim forward while tied to anchors. You may move a little, but you will never truly break free. Reinvention demands new air, and that means cutting ties with those who suffocate your vision. The influence of environment is stronger than most people admit. When you surround yourself with people who complain, you unconsciously learn to complain. When you spend time with people who settle for less, you slowly lower your own standards. The old you finds comfort in such circles because there is no pressure to change. The new you must be willing to walk away, even if it feels lonely, because freedom from negativity is more valuable than false companionship. Detachment is not about arrogance or hatred. It is about protecting your mental space so that your growth is not constantly sabotaged. Leaving toxic environments also creates room for new, empowering relationships. You distance yourself from those who drain you. You can seek out mentors, peers, and communities that inspire you to rise higher. Positive circles challenge you, encourage you, and remind you of who you are becoming instead of who you were. Reinvention cannot happen in isolation, but it also cannot happen in the wrong company. The old you stays loyal to environments that keep you small. The new you understands that loyalty to your future must come before loyalty to your past. Detaching from toxic circles is not just an act of separation. It is a declaration that your destiny matters more than anyone's comfort. Learning relentlessly is the fuel of reinvention because the old version of you stopped growing the moment it decided it already knew enough. The world changes fast, opportunities evolve daily, and those who cling to outdated knowledge slowly fall behind without even realizing it. Reinvention demands a mindset that treats learning not as a phase of life, but as a lifelong duty. Every new skill, idea, perspective you absorb becomes a tool that reshapes who you are and who you can become. The old you resists learning because it is uncomfortable to admit ignorance. The new you embraces learning because it understands ignorance is the enemy of transformation. Relentless learning is not limited to formal education or structured courses. It is a lifestyle. It means reading books that challenge your thinking, listening to mentors who have walked the path, practicing skills until they become second nature, and staying curious about how things work. It means asking questions when others stay silent, experimenting when others hesitate, seeing failure as a classroom rather than a graveyard. The old you wants entertainment, the new you hungers for wisdom. Entertainment passes time, but wisdom builds futures. You commit to learning relentlessly. You stop relying on luck and start relying on growth. A person who learns every day cannot remain the same for long because each lesson chips away at old habits and builds new capacities. Knowledge widens your vision, sharpens your decision making, and strengthens your confidence. Prepares you for opportunities you cannot even see yet. Many people miss life, changing chances not because they lacked ambition, but because they lacked preparation. Relentless learning ensures you are always ready when opportunity knocks. Reinvention is impossible without constant input of new information, because your mind cannot create a new version of you from the same old data. The old you spends hours scrolling, consuming distraction, and repeating the past. The new you spends hours feeding the mind with insights that carve a different future. Learning relentlessly is not about becoming perfect, but about becoming better every single day, till the old you has no space left to exist. Taking bold risks is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become, because no reinvention happens without stepping into the unknown. The old version of you clings to safety, preferring predictable routines over uncertain opportunities. It convinces you that failure is dangerous and rejection is unbearable, so you choose to remain in the small circle of what feels secure. Security is often just stagnation disguised as comfort. Reinvention demands that you walk into uncertainty, that you gamble on yourself, and that you dare to try when the outcome is unclear. Without risk, the old you survives. With risk, the new you begins to breathe. Risks are not about recklessness, but about courage. They are the decisions that scare you yet excite you at the same time. It could mean launching a business with limited resources, applying for a position you feel underqualified for, speaking up when silence feels safer, moving away from environments that no longer serve your growth. These steps do not guarantee success, but they guarantee growth. And growth is the true reward of risk. You sees failure as the end. The new you sees failure as tuition paid to the school of greatness. Every setback you face while taking risks becomes a lesson that polishes your character and equips you for the next level. What most people forget is that avoiding risk is also a risk. Choosing to play safe, you risk wasting your potential, missing opportunities, and living with regret. Boldness, on the other hand, creates momentum. When you act courageously, doors open, people notice, and chances appear that would never exist in a life of hesitation. Reinvention is fueled by this forward motion, by the willingness to say, I don't know if I'll succeed, but I refuse to stay the same. Taking bold risks is how you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than the old you ever imagined. It is the act of stepping onto a new stage where the fear of the unknown transforms into the thrill of becoming someone new. Practicing consistent habits is the foundation that sustains reinvention, because transformation is never the result of a single decision, but of repeated actions that compound over time. Version of you lives off bursts of inspiration, doing something for a few days, and then falling back into familiar routines. That inconsistency keeps you trapped in cycles where progress is made and lost repeatedly. Reinvention requires the discipline to show up every day, even when motivation is low, even when results are not immediate. Habits are what shape identity, and until your daily actions change, the old you will continue to dominate. Consistency turns small efforts into massive outcomes. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't feel like much, but in a year it becomes thousands of pages and new levels of knowledge. Exercising for 30 minutes may seem insignificant, but over time it transforms both body and mind. Saving a little money regularly might feel slow, yet it builds financial strength and freedom. The old you dismisses these small steps because it craves quick results and instant gratification. The new you understands that consistency is what converts ordinary routines into extraordinary achievements. Reinvention is not about intensity for a moment, but about persistence for a lifetime. Building consistent habits also rewires the mind. Each time you stick to a new routine, you send a message to yourself: I am the kind of person who follows through. That identity shift is powerful because it gradually erases self-doubt and replaces it with confidence. Habits remove the need to constantly negotiate with yourself. Instead of asking, do I feel like doing this today? You simply act because it has become part of who you are. You relies on willpower, which fades quickly. The new you relies on systems, which endure. Consistency also protects reinvention from collapse during hard times. Life feels chaotic. Habits provide stability, keeping you moving forward even in small steps. Over weeks and months, small steps build momentum so strong that the old you cannot keep up. Practicing consistent habits is how reinvention becomes permanent rather than temporary. It ensures that the new you is not just born, but sustained. Building resilience is one of the most vital steps in killing the old version of yourself, because reinvention is never a smooth or straight path. The old you collapses at the first sign of rejection, failure, or difficulty. It believes that setbacks are proof of inadequacy, and that obstacles mean you should stop. The new you must develop resilience, the inner strength to bend but never break, to fall but always rise again. Reinvention is a battle, and resilience is the armor that allows you to keep fighting when everything around you seems to say, give up. Resilience begins with how you perceive challenges. Instead of seeing problems as punishments, you start to see them as training. Every failure becomes feedback, every rejection becomes redirection, and every obstacle becomes preparation for the person you are becoming. The old you interprets pain as a signal to quit. The new you interprets pain as evidence of growth. Just as muscles strengthen under resistance, your character discipline and determination strengthen when life pushes back. Resilience transforms adversity from an enemy into an ally that forges you into someone tougher, wiser, and more capable. Another key aspect of resilience is emotional control. You react impulsively, drowning in frustration or self-pity when things go wrong. The new you learns to manage emotions, to stay calm under pressure, and to focus on solutions instead of problems. This control doesn't remove the struggle, but makes you effective within it. Resilience is not about ignoring difficulties, it is about refusing to be defined or destroyed by them. Resilience also creates consistency. When you can endure disappointment without quitting, you continue the habits and actions that build the new you. Over time, resilience ensures progress even when motivation fades. It allows you to keep moving when others stop, and that persistence separates those who reinvent themselves from those who remain stuck. The old you was fragile, quick to surrender, and dependent on circumstances. The new you is unshakable, able to endure storms while keeping your eyes fixed on the vision ahead. Resilience guarantees that no matter how many times life knocks you down, reinvention continues. Celebrating small deaths is an essential step in reinvention because every old habit you let go of, every fear you conquer, and every excuse you silence is a symbolic funeral for the old you. Too often, people wait to celebrate only the final achievement, a dream job, financial success, personal transformation, while overlooking the small victories that make such milestones possible. The old you ignores these moments, dismissing them as insignificant, and in doing so, loses motivation and momentum. The new you understands that every small death of a destructive behavior is proof of progress and deserves recognition. You celebrate small deaths, you reframe the process of change. Quitting procrastination for one day is not just a minor action, it is the burial of the old habit that once controlled you. Choosing courage over fear in a single moment is not just a coincidence. It is evidence that the old version of you is losing power. These moments might appear small on the surface. Together they form the stepping stones that lead to a completely different life. Reinvention is not a sudden leap, but a series of daily funerals for the old patterns that kept you trapped. Acknowledging these moments also strengthens your motivation. Every time you pause to appreciate progress, you remind yourself that transformation is real and happening now. This creates momentum, and momentum builds belief. The old you thrives on doubt, constantly whispering that change is impossible. By celebrating small deaths, you prove to yourself that change is not only possible, but already underway. Each celebration becomes fuel for the next step, turning the painful process of killing old habits into a rewarding journey. Celebrating small deaths also teaches gratitude for the struggle itself. It allows you to honor the courage it takes to say no to temptation, to break free from toxic influences, to keep going when comfort calls you back. Over time, these small celebrations accumulate into a powerful narrative. You are no longer the person you used to be. You dies piece by piece, and the new you rises stronger with every step. My friends, the truth is simple. Your old self has had enough time. It has ruled your decisions, wasted your chances, and held you captive in comfort. But today you have a choice. You can keep protecting the old you, or you can bury it once and for all. Reinvention is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It is about choosing courage over fear, action over excuses, and growth over comfort. The old you will fight to survive. Every step you take in honesty, discipline, resilience, and learning is another nail in its coffin. The future does not belong to those who cling to who they were. It belongs to those bold enough to kill the old self and brave enough to create the new. So, take these 10 steps not as ideas, but as weapons. Use them daily. Live them fully. And let the world witness the rebirth of the person you were always meant to be. Because when the old you dies, the real you finally begins to live.